Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're doing very well. Thank you for tuning in today. So I thought for my next video I wanted to do something a bit personal. So I want to talk to you about my rosacea story and my journey that I've gone through so far. I did a poll on my Instagram to kind of either do this video or do kind of my favourite high street makeup, and a lot more people had said they wanted to see this video, which is great. And I will be filming the other video very soon, possibly at the weekend. So I thought I would actually call this type of video kind of let's have a chat. So essentially there's a couple of videos I have in mind where I just want to sit down, talk to you guys about some kind of serious stuff that I feel is really important to me and just really important to society these days. There's not a lot of chat about certain topics that I want to talk about, and for example, my skin is one of those. Obviously, it's not just me that suffers from this. There's thousands of people, millions of people around the world that do suffer from this, and not a lot of people actually know anything about rosacea. I never knew anything about rosacea until I actually got it. So we're going to start right from the beginning and kind of lead up to now. In advance, if you hear any train noises, I apologise. We live right next to a railway. And I'm actually filming in our kitchen because I just wanted to have a feel around the house as to where the best place to film is. The lighting in here is good so far, so I'm hoping the sound works. But okay, let's get into the video basically. So when I was a teenager, when I was quite young, I rarely had spots. And I was quite proud of myself for that. I don't know if I was, I was eating the same stuff, I was doing the same stuff that I do now. And I kind of was always a bit happy that I never had spots because, being a teenager, you're kind of like, oh, spots make you kind of feel horrible, a bit ugly, a bit self-conscious. And occasionally, I would get, just normal spots like teenage spots, or, if I've eaten too much sugar, or if I've, just not had a good skin week like everyone does. It's a normal thing. But then, around 3 years ago, I started to kind of feel, oh, I should, sort out my skin routine because, I'm getting a bit older and I feel like, my youth is not going to stay around forever, especially like, with like, lines and all that stuff, which never bothered me. I'm being happy at the age of like 32 now. Even then, age doesn't bother me. A lot of people are like, oh, you don't look this age, you don't look this age, but that's fine. I feel however age, I feel happy. Even 3 years ago, I was just thought I'll try something different. So essentially, like normal people, you'd have oily skin or dry skin, and you just wanted to help sort that out. So I would actually use quite a lot of face masks, a lot of different like creams and scrubs, and I kind of feel that might have triggered my rosacea that I have now. So essentially in the beginning, I had really itchy cheeks, and it was just plain red. There was some bumps, and I was kind of like, maybe I've had an allergic reaction to one of my face masks. But then I thought, this hasn't gone away. It was like a couple of weeks. I was getting a bit worried because the bumps were, more visible, and I wasn't quite sure what it was. So essentially I went to the doctor, and she was like, yeah, it looks like rosacea. And I was like, I've never heard of that before. I don't know what that is. All I know is that my skin is really itchy. It was burning. It was very warm. And it was obviously just in these sections here, like they still are. And then so she put me on a course of antibiotics. The first course she put me on, I believe, was for a month. So that set of antibiotics essentially were only there to kind of get rid of the actual spots. So they weren't there to get rid of the redness. She also gave me a cream. Apologies, I can't remember what the cream is called. It was such a long time ago. I can Google them, leave them in the description. So if anyone has any questions or anything. And so I tried out the cream. Didn't really help for me. So when I went back the second time, it was actually getting much worse. The bumps were kind of turning into spots, which were more visible. Basically, the bumps I had before were just like, just little bumps over the red skin, so they weren't as visible. but now they were turning into actual spots like whiteheads and visible redheads, which were a bit strange because I didn't know if anything else I was being allergic to. So I went back and she put me on the same antibiotics again, but for 3 months. And I kind of felt like that was a bit of a fob off because, you know, your body can get used to antibiotics. I've kind of heard that if your body's on antibiotics for quite a long time, your body becomes immune to them and then they just stop working. So when I finished that course, she had given me a clear gel to put on, which I guess was to help the redness, but again, did not help. And so essentially from those 3 years ago to now, my cheeks have changed a lot. So there's been moments where I was just feeling so down because I was like, all of a sudden I had this really beautiful clear skin, and I don't know if, you know, someone had jinxed me or if I jinxed myself, but that's just life. So as you can probably see, I'll show you on my face. Apologies in advance if this is really close up. I've just got my phone, so I'm not sure how close it is. But you can just see how little bumps are just on my face. You know, these aren't spots. Essentially, it's blood that has kind of built up together. So essentially, that's what rosacea is. It's just pigments of your blood that has kind of built up, and that means you're not getting a lot of kind of circulation in the cheeks, and they just kind of stay there, become really visible. A lot of people have said, oh, why haven't you had like laser surgery or done this? Essentially, there's no cure for rosacea. You know, if I was to have laser surgery, I would guarantee it would probably come back. And the fact that even having a consultation is like £250, and I've been to a dermatologist, absolutely just a waste of my time. It was kind of, I feel bad to say it because I don't know if all dermatologists are like this, but essentially I'd waited a year to see him, and as soon as I got there he was like, oh, don't eat hot food, keep out of the sun. And I was like, I live in London, it's not that sunny, but obviously the past 2 summers have been very warm. So when he told me to keep out the sun, I was like, well, I'm part-time. I like to feel like I'm part-time vampire, so I'd stay inside anyway. I don't like going out. So I was just like, okay, that's like a year of my life I've kind of just wasted when, you know, just waiting and waiting and waiting. We know what the NHS is like, just waiting for appointments and, you know, so underfunded. No one really getting a lot of money, but I was really, helpful that I was actually able to get an appointment, but the fact that the appointment just did not help. So I started to kind of do my own research and look at triggers. So there were so many different triggers, but for me, I don't feel there's anything that triggers it apart from the sun. Essentially, when it was, summer this year and last year, it was really bad. Like the sun was just horrible. And I know a lot of people are, oh, we want sun in London, and when it's here, it's horrible. But honestly, some of it was so bad. I literally had to put on SPF throughout the year, and I still do because that is how sensitive my skin is. No matter where I go, I cannot really sit out in the sunlight for a long time. Because again, it will flare up much more, and my skin is extremely sensitive anyway. Essentially, it's so sensitive that when I take off makeup, my cheeks bleed. I'm sorry to have to say that, but this is the realization of what I go through every day and what rosacea is and what a lot of people go through. So you guys have probably seen, even in my first video, I love wearing makeup so much. Essentially, makeup's a way for me to kind of shield what I have, and it does help. But there's days, for example, when I go to work, like this morning, I didn't wear makeup today because I got up super early, couldn't be bothered, and that's normal, that's totally okay. But years ago, I would have essentially got up super early, deliberately put on lots of makeup to hide my redness, because I know people stare, I know people make comments. I've had comments non-stop. I've had people kind of say to me, why don't you wash your face properly? Why don't you try this? And I'm just like, you have no idea what I'm going through. And essentially they can go home, live their life, but that comment will stay with me. And that's probably another part of my anxiety that does trigger me to have panic attacks is people kind of staring and knowing. I know what they're thinking. They're kind of like, what the hell is wrong with her? Keep away from her. But, you know, maybe I'm being dramatic, but that's just how I feel. I've had people, you know, stare at me at work. People come up to me and go, you should stay away from nuts. And I was just like, what nuts are you talking about? And they're just like, stop eating nuts. And I was like, why is that? And he's like, oh, because you have spots. And I was like, these are not the kind of spots that will go away if I stop eating nuts. The only thing that I have to keep away from is spicy food. That doesn't help because my mum loves spice in her food. So essentially, I would have to live a boring, mild life, which is not me. I've also had people kind of, you know, if I'm giving someone like a consultation about their skincare and they're like, oh, I have spots. And I'm like, okay, what kind of spots? And they're like, spots like yours. And I'm like, well, I'm sorry, but I am not putting myself in the same category as you. Someone has oily skin, that's going to help. That's going to trigger spots. But for me, I do have oily and dry skin, but that's for something else. And I'm kind of like, I'm not putting my, you know, sharing my same story with you because this is not the same thing. But essentially I've come to grow, you know, and kind of not take those comments so personally. Although in the beginning there were days when I was like, I don't want to leave the house because my face is bloody disgusting. Especially when, you know, if my skin gets quite dry, and I have a habit of, you know, kind of just like, oh, what's this? I'll just like peel off a bit of skin and then my face will bleed and then I'll have to like just hide for about 5 minutes just to get the blood stopping. And I can't walk around London with like blood coming down my face. Not that I ever would, a bit dramatic, but you know, it's just a realization of what I have to go through, what I deal with every day. So essentially, coming up to like, you know, 3 years later to where we are right now, I discovered aloe vera. Aloe vera is amazing. I did read online somewhere that obviously pure aloe vera is very nice and calming and soothing, which it is. And I've learned a lot more about aloe vera since my current job because I get to learn lots of things and lots of like ingredients and what they do and where they're sourced from. But essentially I put on aloe vera like 3 times a day, and it's a bit drying on my skin, but to be honest, my skin is dry, it's gonna happen anyway. But essentially my skin had like the redness has really calmed down ever since I've used aloe vera, and this is like 99.9% aloe vera. So you know, using anything less maybe won't be as powerful, but I absolutely love aloe vera. This is like my second tube that I've bought in the last couple of months, because it's so good, and it's a very thick gel as well, so you can essentially have like a nice layer on the face, and it does stay on. Like I put some on before I filmed. It makes my face quite shiny, a bit softening, but I know that it will help moisten my face because like I mentioned, it gets quite dry. But then the soothing aspect of it is so helpful because, you know, my skin doesn't feel like it's burning constantly. It's just nice and calm. But something else I use on like kind of on top of that before I put a primer on essentially is like it's like a product from Lush that I use called Cosmic Glad. This is extremely softening, moisturizing. This is not an ad for Lush, by the way. It's just products that I use that I love using. And essentially, and there's a couple of other like rose products, elements that I like to use. Again, calming, soothing. You know, like I said, these aren't going to go anywhere. I just like to kind of make my skin a bit soft, help it from drying out. And yeah, I just felt like I should share my story with you guys. If you do have any questions about rosacea, I can try and answer them, put them in the comments. And I promise I will be making like a makeup video soon. I'll be doing a video on Sunday, but I'm not sure what it is yet. I'm sure I'll just do something really kind of like makeup related. Sorry about that. Like makeup related, because essentially I've had 2 videos without talking about makeup, and I'm listed as a makeup channel. So beauty, health, beauty. This is health. This is beauty. So I might get more views than my last one. But I want to thank you guys for listening. I hope you have learned something about rosacea. I really hope I kind of got to the point, talked about my story, understand kind of what I've been going through for the past few years. Again, if you have any questions, I'll try my best. And I will definitely see you in the next video. If you want to, please subscribe. I'm almost up to like 30 subscribers, which makes me very happy. Thank you so much. And also give it a like if you want to, dislike, totally up to you. But thank you so much for watching my video, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye guys.